Keith dancing for good reason. Welcome to the VET S.O.S podcast 3-year anniversary. Remember, don't drown to see a transition. Grab the VET S.O.S lifeline. VET S.O.S is brought to you by the Who You Know Network and proud members of the Parade Deck community. Today, we are celebrating our 3-year anniversary with the best dressed man in transition, the one and only Dr. Vincent Soto. So glad to have him back on here. He was on the show in season 1 and was a big part of my transition. So always glad to sit down with him and see what he's got going on now. Really excited about this new venture he's got. He's going to help us all up our level of dressing so that we can compete with him. Very excited to hear that. Keith, 3 years, man. Can you believe it?
I mean, I've only been a part of the show for, a little snapshot of this, but watching it grow, I've been, I guess, in this background as a supporter of it since day one, and just watching the growth and the amazing things that you and this podcast have been doing. I'm just honored to be a part of it. I mean, how else can I say it other than, 3 years of tradition unhindered by progress, baby. So.
We are so happy that you are part of this as well. You're a big part of this team, and we've been blessed to have just amazing people be a part of this. And of course, our guests and the people who watch us on a regular basis. And we can't say enough. Everybody's been a big part of this, and we're looking forward to the future. So let's jump into this. We got Dr. Vincent M. Soto. He's a dedicated leader with a career spanning over 33 years of service and advocacy for the military and veteran communities. After serving 26 years in the U.S. Navy, Dr. Soto transitioned to his current role as a Department of Labor contracted senior employment facilitator for the past 7 years, where he works diligently assisting veterans and transitioning service members in securing meaningful employment opportunities. He is also the founder of Navigating Solutions, a nonprofit organization with a mission to provide critical resources and guidance to the veteran community. Through this organization, Dr. Soto has worked to connect veterans with essential services, job opportunities, and a network of support that helps them navigate the challenges of civilian life. And you can learn more about that organization in the first episode we did with Vince here. So now he is also the CEO and operations director of Transition2Transformation, an organization focused on empowering the military community through the understanding of dressing for success. With a passion for helping individuals recognize the profound impact of their appearance on confidence, professional opportunities, and success, Dr. Soto leads Transition2Transformation in its mission to provide military members and veterans with the tools to succeed in the workforce. And I will tell you, I watch your posts on LinkedIn for nothing more, and I'm not taking away from your message, but for nothing more to see what you're wearing. I love checking it out. You amaze me every week. I mean, you got a fantastic wardrobe, and I can only imagine how big your closet is at your house. How you doing today, Dr. Soto?
I am good, man. I am good. I'm excited about your 3 years. I'm excited about the venture that's been happening, and I believe that it's needed. From the transition perspective, we're so used to wearing a uniform, right? And so I will tell you, and I still struggle with it sometimes. The hardest thing for me to do is when I get an assignment for work, and let's say I'm traveling somewhere, is what I'm going to wear, right? Like we never had to make that decision on the everyday basis what I'm going to wear, right? I knew what I was going to wear. I was going to wear this uniform, this wash and wear uniform, and if it's if it's dirty, I throw it in the wash, the dryer, I shake it out, and it's good to go. And so I'm excited. I love education and training, and this is a venture where I can educate and train a service member, veteran, of how to dress and make an impact. That first impact when somebody sees them, and you never know what's going to happen. I always say you never get a second chance to make a first impression, but we get a lot of practice at it before we make that first impression. So that's what I'm here to do, and just help people. I don't care if somebody. I don't care if you buy from me. I don't care about that. My main point is, are you educated? And that's why I give the tips that I give of investment dressing and learning how to shop, right? When you go out there and shop, and getting the good deals, or understanding what I'm wearing first.
Oh yeah, I'll say. So you don't have to tell us, but do you have more than one closet?
I do.
Okay, all right,
I do.
all right. I believe it. I believe it.
Yeah.
All right. So
So
before we get into the organization here and the things you're doing, and one question I do want to know, because you probably know this answer, is how many different ways can you actually tie a tie? Because I saw your series on different ways to tie it, and being a Boy Scout leader for so many years, there's a whole bunch of books on knots and things like that. So I can only imagine with ties. But before we jump into all that, um, real quick, just remind us about your transition. Tell us about your transition process real quick, and then we'll jump into the organization.
My transition process after 26 years, like many of us, I didn't know what I wanted to do, right? Like, we often make a joke about, okay, now I gotta be an adult, right? Like, as I transition, I gotta know what I do. And so transitioning, I had a passion and I had a skill set. And my skill set was healthcare, right? Being a Navy hospital corpsman, uh, 26 years, but I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want to do healthcare anymore. You know, it was, it was really, I, I didn't like military medicine anymore. I just didn't like it, right? I just didn't like it. But I fell in love with this education and training. My last command, I worked at Field Medical Training Battalion East in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And I just fell in love. Before that, I was an instructor, but this time I was the formal school manager, and I was really falling in love with the education and training part. So I prepared myself for that. They had some great programs, so I became a curriculum developer. I became a Navy master trainer specialist, a Marine Corps master instructor. So I was prepared for the going into that field, but I was afraid to go into that field. I was truly afraid to make a new step. So, my first job for 6 months, I went into the healthcare field and I absolutely 100% hated it. Hated every day I went to work. And was the money great? Absolutely. The money was absolutely great. But I hated going to work. I hated waking up to go to work. I hated being in that place. And it took me about 6 months or so, a little less, to say, this is not for me. This is definitely not for me. Okay, I tried it. I confirmed that I didn't, this is not for me. And I started to look for, other opportunities. And I, through networking, one of my buddies said, "Hey Vince, I got the perfect place for you. You love education and training, and Department of Labor is hiring." And so I applied. I started off part time, and from part time, I went from part time employment facilitator. I went to a full-time employment facilitator, and I went to a senior employment facilitator. And I love every day of it. I love every day I go to work. I get an assignment every day. To the point, to me, it's not work. It's an enjoyment. I still get to hang around service members, and we get to, joke around sometimes, but I get to provide them with critical information. I always teach with reality, and I'm not a death by PowerPoint person. If you're in my class, we're going to have a discussion. We're going to have a discussion about transition. Everybody's transition is different. And so we talk about reality of, connecting to people and networking and what it's going to be when your service cuts off that paycheck, right? And you have to deal with reality of not getting a paycheck on the 1st and the 15th, right? And so, that's my transition. I mean, I didn't have, I think I had a skill set that was, I always tell folks, I think we learned a lesson through like COVID time that your job has to be essential, to the community and to society. And I just don't want, your job or somebody's job to go away because it's not essential. And so, focusing on those essential jobs, you'll land some good places. So, that's me in a nutshell. And sometimes people say, Vince, when are you gonna sit down? When are you gonna sit down and stop moving? I'm like, I can't. Until there's not a need for what we do, for what we all do, Sean, I'm not sitting down at all, because there's always a need for what we do.
A- And you're still the first, well, you are the first person who I ever heard say this, and I know you say it all the time, and that is, we may not pursue leadership positions when we get out of the military, but because of who we are, we will eventually find ourselves in leadership positions and taking control and doing things because it's
Yeah.
part of our DNA.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
I fully believe that. I don't feel that I have to go looking for leadership positions. I think when the time comes and the need is there, it automatically starts to happen. And just you know me, I've been a huge fan of your work. You were a big part of my transition, and I'll forever be grateful for the conversations we've had, and the different training opportunities I've been able to do through you as well. It's just fantastic work, and I'm glad you're not going to sit back anytime soon because a lot of people need it. But let's jump into transition to
Yeah.
transformation. What is this, and why did you feel this had to start?
Transition to transformation is we're an education piece. Yes. Do we have suits for sale? Absolutely, we do at a great price. And I'm going to be making some moves that I'm going to tell you here. And you're the first one to hear this, what I'm going to do
Oh,
with the organization.
breaking
So,
news!
so I want you to, as service members wear a uniform for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And yeah, we have dress uniforms, but we have one dress uniform. It's we don't have a choice in the matter, right? And so we have that, right? And so, you know, do I know how to wear? Sometimes you can enter a room based upon what you're wearing, and you can intimidate people based on what you were wearing. And I tell you, and I got this concept a while ago. I used to run. I had an organization which I sold. I sold it because the competitor knew I was coming, right? Like, and so they bought me. They gave me a good price, and I owned a organization called BTS Athletics, and I would outfit sporting teams, local sporting teams in the Onslow County, Jacksonville area. I had quite a few teams, and my concept, I used to tell you as a coach to say, when we create this uniform, use your imagination, right? Because my job is to help you win. My job is to help you win. So when that other team sees how good your uniform is, they're intimidated by your uniform, right? And before they go into the second half and realize they can play with you, that you're not that good, the game's already over. The game's already over. You're too far up because they were intimidated by by what you wore. And so the same thing in a business environment as you're going to that interview, I just imagine you entering this room with several other candidates. And I want you to win with before you open your mouth, before you show them your professional expertise, I want you to win. I want them to look at you and go, holy cow. Like you see, like like he's not playing. Like he came in here for business, right? Like and we can do that because once we dress as service members and veterans, we have a way. Our work ethic is is unbelievable. So we'll make sure we dress. It's the same when I look at a interview as a uniform inspection. I look
Nice.
at that as a uniform inspection. And when we always had uniform inspections, I don't care. Like go back to the olden days when we had to polish our shoes, right? Polish and if it was on a Monday, Sunday, Oh man, if it was in camis, man, we used enough Stay Flow. Remember Stay Flow, right? Like we used enough Stay Flow. Like we were those creases were gonna be on point. Like we had to shove our arm through the sleeve so it opens, right? And
Ants would stand up
that's
by
the work ethic.
themselves.
Yeah, that's the work ethic we will have for dressing. So if I teach you how to do it and how to wear it, you'll take the rest and make sure that you are good with that. One of the other things I got really mad at, and it was with being a sailor in the Navy. The Navy in their uniform changes, the Navy removed a uniform, right, that required a sailor E6 and below to tie a tie. They had their neckerchief in their jumpers, right? They had their neckerchief, but they removed the working blue uniform that required them to tie a tie. So there's a possibility a service member could exit the military, a retiree E6 could exit the military without ever having to tie a tie. And I was like, wow. So now when they dress business and go out there and buy, do they even know how to tie a tie? The simple aspects of it. So, introducing it, I get all the time, hey, Vince, I bought that book, 85 Ways to Tie a Tie, right? Good, awesome, right? Awesome. I want you to do that because it's part of, what we do. And so, I have navigating solutions and I do that in a nonprofit, and I have this transition to transformation. What I'm working on is this. I'm going to bring transition to transformation under navigating solutions. I'm going to dramatically drop pricing because I understand markups and stuff like that. I'm going to dramatically where the E3 that's getting out can afford it without a problem. Then I'm going to use the revenue from our now department, Transition to Transformation, to support efforts to supporting the service member and veteran through navigating solutions. So somebody buys a suit, that may pay for a scholarship for somebody to get a certification.
There you go.
So
Nice.
I love
that's
the way your
that's my
brain works.
goal. So that's my goal by at least by the end of this year to have it under the nonprofit and support the nonprofit into, hey, we're providing a great fit, a business attire for a service member, a veteran, but we're then using those funds to support, again, turning it back around and using those funds to support the veteran and the service member.
That is awesome. I don't know, Keith, you ready to get dressed up?
Oh, don't even get me started. I mean, I've shared it with you before, Sean, but I don't know, Vincent. So yeah, Vincent. When I got out of the army, well, I joined at 17. So when I got out 22 years later, I was a 39-year-old adult that had never been a civilian a single day in his life. And my first major job was at Wells Fargo as a branch manager. My wife had to dress me for like the first 3 months of that job. I'm not lying. I didn't know anything about color coordination and how all those rules and stuff work, let alone, even like colors have meaning, right? There's power colors and that intimidation factor, right? That's not only does it intimidate the opponent, or in this case, in the business world, like, set a good impression, but it sets you up too for success. Like you feel more powerful in your own mind and more confident based on how you look. Um, Man, you hit so many things. I mean, shoot, I don't even know where to start. I'm going to take it all the way back at the beginning because, again, we could easily make this a 3-hour podcast episode without even blinking an eye. But you had a phrase early on when we were talking that I've never heard before, and I'd like you to expand on it. Investment. I think you said investment dressing. If I got that correct. I mean, a whole bunch of things come to my mind, but I'd love for you to expand on that for the listeners.
So investment dressing, like You invest in yourself. It's being the smarter shopper. And investment dressing is a learned behavior specifically for men. And I'll tell you where it started. When we went to prom. It started in high school, right? When we went to prom. Why did your prom date buy her dress and you rented your tux?
Yep.
That's why women are better shoppers. That's why your wife helped you, because they understand investment dressing, right? Like they understand that, which they only wore their dress once. We wore a tux, but we rented it, right?
Hmm.
We probably paid more to rent it for 2 or 3 days than they paid for that dress. And we had to give, it wasn't even ours. Why didn't we buy it? Could you have used it on another occasion? Probably so. Probably could have. You could have used at least used the pants and the shirt. You didn't have to wear it as in one ensemble. You could have wore the jacket by itself in some other time, right? And so investment dressing, learning how to shop and invest in yourself for the longevity of what you're going to wear. So buy the suit,
Hmm.
buy the suit, buy the tux, right? Purchase it. I just did a tux for a young lady whose son was about to rent a tux for his prom. He was gonna pay $250 to rent the tux, and I told her some investment dressing. Hey, go out and get him this, and I'm gonna provide you this tux jacket, right? And she paid a fraction of what she was like, hey, Vincent, I appreciate it. That's investment dressing. Understanding, like when I walk into the store, the ways to buy things, right? And so if I walk into the store, it's off the rack. And I know, Sean, you're a tall guy, right? You're a tall guy. I know when you walk into a J.C. Penney's, you get frustrated, right? Because they don't have what you need. Off the rack is whatever they have, that's what my choices are, right? And then we have sort of like something that I do is, hey, let's look at your size and see if we can get. I may not be able to fit everybody, but I may give you some pointers of where to go to get what you want, and not necessarily off the rack. Let's investment dress, right? It's like people will say, hey, Vince, where do you get some of your shirts from? And I go to Brooks Brothers sometimes. Investment dressing. You go, oh man, they're expensive. They can be, right? And so I always go on a sale, right? Always go on a sale, a holiday, Labor Day, Memorial Day, and I always go to the clearance section, right? And they'll do like 2 for 25 or 2 for 40. And I'm a believer that we only use about 10% of the things we have access to, right? So I'll tell them every single time, hey, I've got some more running to do. Can you hang and press these shirts for me? You know that they'll do that. Most people don't know that they press shirts, right? Hang and press your shirts. If I'm going to pay for it, I'm going to use all the services that you have. They'll hang and press the shirt. When I come back, my shirts are in the garment bag. I get a free garment. I just got a free garment bag now. My shirt is pressed and hung, so I don't have to worry about that when I get home. And when I get home, just hang them up in the closet. Use all the services. So investment dressing, buying smarter, right? As specifically as men, because women do it. Women already know how to shop, right? Like our significant others come home and say, "Hey, babe, look what I got on sale." Right? No matter how much it costs, right? I got this on sale, right? Yeah, I saved $100. If they tell me like you saved $100, that means it was probably $300, right? So, but they already know how to investment dress, and men. A lot of times we don't want to shop. We're direct and to the point. We go into the store, we get what we came here for, and we leave, right? But sometimes what we're going to get, and there's a better option that's cheaper, but we have to do a little bit of our research, right? And so we're not used to that. It started when we were young. We went, we got a suit, it was rented, we got to give it back, right? We didn't have to hang it up in a closet, figure out a space for it, dry clean. We didn't have to do that stuff, right? And a lot of us joined the military, and guess what happened? We went into a uniform, right? And so our closets was filled with uniforms, a couple of pair of jeans, some workout stuff. We either had olive shirts, white shirts, and boot socks, and socks for our go fasters, right? And so that's what we had, right?
Yep.
And then when our spouses said, "Hey, we got an event to go to," we had to go out and get stuff, right? While they already had it in the closet.
Yep.
So, it's about just, creating this pathway of investment dressing. I'm not, it's like investing in the stock market. You want to buy something that you're going to be able to use, continuously, and invest in yourself, invest in yourself.
Yeah.
And I don't think we do it enough, like investing in ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And allowing that first impression to make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can't help but think about, there's a little, well, just I'm humorously thinking about the weight I gained after I got out too. So, I bought a bunch of suits that no longer fit now too. So there is the aspect of keeping in physical condition. So you invest in yourself long term, you're still in that same physical shape. But now this is amazing stuff. So and we're almost at time already, Vincent. So first of all, quick question followed up by a bigger question. So how much do your services cost to our veterans? And then once I hear that answer, which I already know, but they hear it, like what sorts of things can they expect when they reach out to you and sign up for your programs?
So the first thing, I'm going to always bring them back to the basics, right? Like I'm going to bring them back to the basics. That's why I change um, our plans. I have an interview plan. I have an interview collection, right? And then I have a let's play, right? Let's play. After you
Nice.
get that interview collection, after you build your wardrobe, let's play around with some things, right? And do that. Right now, we got a great program. Our suits go at $199 right now, and always you get a suit and a tie with it. And right now we have a buy one get one. So walk away with
Nice.
two suits for $199.
Investment
It,
dressing.
it, yeah, investment dressing, right? And I always tell them start with your basic color. So it's a great time to get a blue and a gray suit, or and they interchange with each other, right? And so you don't have to you can wear the actual blue jacket with the gray pants, or things like that. And so um, uh, this month, and I think I'm gonna keep that price. I like that price. One night for two suits, you walk away with 200 bucks, a suit and two ties. We handpick your ties to match your suit. We don't match your suit with the tie. We complement your suit with the tie, right? Your tie
Yep.
doesn't always have to match. It complements what you're
Yep.
wearing. So that's what we have right now. We have it's called Spring T to T. That's the promo code, and you'll get two suits for the price of one.
Love it.
Absolutely amazing. All right, Sean, we're at time, man. Like this could
Awesome.
go for hours, hours and hours and hours and hours. So, yeah, and yeah, and just for everybody listening too, like for the transitioning service members again, especially the men mostly, because women usually have this on lockdown. But the suits do matter. Like again, when I first went to Wells Fargo, I was popping tags. I was getting. I used to actually brag for a little bit, like the first few months on the job, that all my suits were thrift store bought. Like I got everything out of the thrift store, which was cool. I'm like, this suit cost me $50 tops. But there is something to be said about a well fitted, meant you didn't go find somebody else's stuff and wear it yourself kind of thing. Something that it was meant for you that you put together. It just speaks volumes and it does translate. So, Vincent, it's been absolutely amazing having you on the show again. Thank you so much for coming on. And so, for everybody else listening, how can they get in touch with you?
Hit me up on LinkedIn, right? And as soon as they start to do that, I'll give you my personal number. Like I don't care. Hit me up anytime you want to if you got a question about anything, you know. So yeah, and I'm so easy to get in touch with.
So I want to add real quick that not only are you going to get a great product, but I know Vince, and he's going to take the time to help educate you too.
Yeah.
You're not just going to walk out of there with a suit or two. You're going to understand a little bit more, and this is coming from someone who might be the most color coordinated challenged person on the planet. And you alluded to it a second ago. Me being so tall, at age 14, I was this height. I've been 6'6" the majority of my life. I got to the point where I just walked in and asked, a shoe store, what do you have in a size 14 or 15? I didn't look for brands. I didn't look for certain colors. I just looked for what fit, so I have never been into that. And I'm still a long way to go. And my wife still does a lot of my dressing, but with people like Vince, they help me to start understand how certain things go together, and how, a certain tie is really going to make something pop. And, it's fascinating to learn, honestly. And Vince, I appreciate what you're doing, and love the fact that you've really taken this and run with it. And you and I are going to be doing some business here in the future, and hopefully you got some big and tall ties, because I like my tie to go past my belly button.
Great stuff. Yeah.
Happy anniversary, guys. Happy anniversary. Great work that you're doing. Great work that you're doing. You know, I always connect. I say, hey, in my workshops, connect to Sean and connect to his VET S.O.S. Like you'll learn some great stuff on there.
And we appreciate it. I've been seeing a lot of those saying, "Hey, Dr. Soto told me to reach out to you, man. Fantastic. I love it, brother."
Awesome. All right, guys. So again, Dr. Soto, please thank you so much for coming. Thank you for all the support. It was awesome having you here as always. And on behalf of the entire VET S.O.S family, we'd like to thank everyone for joining us today and supporting us over the last 3 years. VET S.O.S is growing and spreading its wings. You can follow us on all the social media platforms. Make sure to check out all 3 of our shows and to follow and subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts from. And there's more shows to come. We're on YouTube, Reach Across America Radio, The Prey Deck, and all your favorite podcast platforms. And remember, as always, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S Lifeline.